Yes, one ordinary-looking penny from 1954. A coin most people would never think twice about. But under the right conditions, with the right hidden flaw, this tiny copper piece has transformed into a life-changing fortune. Imagine reaching into your pocket, feeling the smooth edge of a penny, and realizing you might be holding a key worth more than gold, more than diamonds, more than you ever imagined a cent could bring. That's the unbelievable story of the 1954 D Mint Mark Wheat penny. But how did this coin, a simple cent struck in Denver in 1954, become a million-dollar miracle? The answer lies in secrets buried deep within the U.S. Mint, in mistakes so small most eyes would never notice. For decades, collectors ignored it. They thought it was just another wheat penny, one of the billions made during the mid-20th century. After all, 1954 was not a key date in the series. At least, that's what everyone believed. But then came the discovery. A single collector spotted something strange, a doubling on the date and the mint mark, letters that seemed to dance under magnification. The coin world held its breath. Could it be true? Could a normal penny from 1954 hide an error so rare, so powerful, that it would rewrite its value forever? What happened next stunned the entire coin world. Auction houses lit up with interest. Dealers rushed to verify. And when the coin finally hit the bidding floor, the whispers turned into a roar. That single penny, once ignored, once dismissed as pocket change, soared into the stratosphere, crossing the unimaginable threshold of nearly $1 million. Why this coin, when millions of others from the same year are worth only cents? The answer lies in three details, and if you miss even one of them, you could overlook a fortune hiding in plain sight. First, the doubling. In 1954, a small batch of Denver-minted pennies was struck with a die that carried a dramatic error. The numbers in the date, 1954, appeared doubled, as if the coinmaker's hand had slipped. Even the D mint mark carries this eerie shadowing, a ghost-like doubling visible to those who dare to look closer. Second, the sharpness. Most of these rare doubled dies wore down quickly, their fragile details fading with circulation. But the few survivors that remain crisp, sharp, and bright, those are the coins that break records. And third, the condition. Collectors call it mint state. If your 1954 penny still glows with original luster, free from heavy scratches and wear, it leaps from being a curiosity to becoming a million-dollar masterpiece. But here's the twist most people miss. Not every doubling is valuable. Countless fakes flood the market, and countless minor varieties are worth only a few dollars. The real million-dollar pieces are the dramatic ones, the kind where even with the naked eye, you can see the doubling scream from the surface. Collectors were shocked when one such coin appeared at a prestigious auction. Bidding wars erupted. Lifelong coin hunters, who had searched for decades, now watched as one lucky owner's pocket change became a million-dollar miracle, and the story spread. Ordinary Americans began digging through drawers, jars, and piggy banks, hunting for the elusive 1954 D. Stories circulated of people finding them tucked in coffee cans, hidden in dusty attic boxes, even passed unknowingly as change at grocery stores. One man reportedly pulled his from a roll of pennies at the bank. A roll he had purchased for 50 cents, only to discover he was holding something worth nearly $1 million. Can you imagine that feeling? 50 cents transformed into a treasure that could change a family's future forever. But wait. This is where the story takes another dramatic turn. Because even among experts, the 1954 D double die remains one of the most elusive and debated coins in existence. Some claim it's a phantom, a myth fueled by hype. Others argue it's the pinnacle of post-war minting errors. And in that uncertainty lies the power, the thrill, of the hunt. Collectors are not just buying a coin. They're buying the mystery, the legend, the dream that maybe, just maybe, they're holding the next record breaker. This dream is real. History proves it. The 1955 double-die penny, once a mere curiosity, now sells for tens of thousands. The 1943 copper penny, struck by accident, has crossed over $1 million in value. And now, the 1954 wheat penny has entered that same hallowed circle. It's about legacy. Imagine passing down to your children not just a coin, but a story, a tale of discovery, luck, and fortune. A coin that turns a family heirloom into $1 million inheritance. That's the true magic of the 1954 wheat penny. How can you spot the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth $1 million? Check the date carefully. Under magnification, the 1954 should appear doubled, especially on the 9 and the 5. Look for strong, thick lines, not faint shadows. Next, inspect the mint mark. The D beneath the date may also show doubling, almost like a ghost image pressed over the original. Finally, evaluate the overall condition. If your penny shines with original copper red luster, with only minimal handling marks, you could be looking at one of the most valuable pennies in existence. But be careful. Many counterfeits circulate, with fake doubling etched or stamped after the fact. Always authenticate through a trusted grading service. Still, the possibility remains. That jar of pennies on your shelf, that forgotten coffee can in your garage, it could contain a coin capable of rewriting your destiny. Because one ordinary penny, one small copper coin stamped with a D in 1954, has already changed lives, already broken records, already proven that miracles still hide in plain sight. This isn't just about money. It's about discovery. About the thrill of holding history in your hands. About the chance that the next great treasure isn't buried in the ground or locked away in a vault, but sitting quietly in your home right now. And that's why, when you look at your change, you must never overlook the details. Never dismiss the ordinary. Because in the world of coins, the ordinary often hides the extraordinary. The 1954 wheat penny is living proof. A coin that almost ended up forgotten, tossed aside, dismissed as worthless. Now a legend worth up to $1 million. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost slipped through history unnoticed. A penny so ordinary, so small, yet it shocked the coin world when it sold for nearly $1 million. Imagine holding something in your hand that looks like pocket change, but in reality, it's worth more than a house. That's the hidden magic of the 1944 no-mint mark wheat Lincoln penny. Back in 1944, America was deep in the throes of World War II. Steel and copper were redirected toward the war effort. Pennies were no longer just coins. They were symbols of sacrifice, minted from unusual materials, shifting from steel back to copper, and occasionally, something went terribly wrong. One tiny mistake, one overlooked detail, created a coin so rare that collectors today are fighting tooth and nail to get their hands on it. Why do some 1944 wheat pennies command prices up to $1.1 million, while others are worth only a few cents? The answer lies in a secret most people would never notice, hidden in plain sight. A difference in metal, a missing mint mark, and a twist of fate that transformed an everyday coin into a millionaire's treasure. At first glance, the 1944 wheat penny looks like any other. Lincoln's profile stares left, wheat stalks frame the back, and the date, 1944, sits proudly below his chin. But collectors discovered something shocking. Not every 1944 penny was created equal. Some carried mint marks, others did not. And a select few were struck in steel instead of copper. These are the legends. These are the pennies worth a fortune. And here's where the mystery deepens. A man once walked into a coin shop with a handful of wheat pennies. To him, they were pocket change, saved from years gone by. But nestled among them was a 1944 no-mint mark penny unlike the rest. The dealer's hand shook as he examined it under a magnifying glass. Could it be real? Could this humble set be one of the legendary errors worth more than $1 million? Collectors were stunned when the story broke. Newspapers ran headlines. Dealers whispered about it at conventions. And soon, auctions around the country lit up with fierce bidding wars. A penny that could have been spent on a stick of gum was now commanding life-changing sums. And the rarest of the rare? The 1944 no-mint mark struck on steel planchets, coins that should never have existed, yet somehow slipped through. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A single specimen, brilliantly preserved, shimmering against the auction lights, crossed the block. The gavel fell. The price? Over $1 million. A penny, no larger than the tip of your thumb, had become a miracle of history, a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Most people who held one of these coins never even knew it. They spent them. They lost them. They tossed them into jars and drawers. $1 million treasure could have jingled in the pocket of a factory worker, been dropped into a soda machine, or slipped into a child's piggy bank. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The metal. In 1944, pennies were supposed to be struck in copper. But a handful of leftover steel planchets from 1943 accidentally found their way into the presses. The result? Steel pennies dated 1944 with no mint mark, coins that never should have existed. That error, that sliver of fate, is what turned an ordinary cent into a legendary rarity. A dull silver-gray penny in a pile of copper. Easy to overlook. Easy to dismiss. Yet that single coin could change someone's life forever. Dealers have called it the miracle penny. Collectors call it their Holy Grail. And those who find it call it their ticket to a new future. But here's where it gets even more thrilling. Not all $1 million 1944 pennies are steel. Even the copper versions with no mint mark can fetch staggering amounts, if they're in pristine, uncirculated condition. A flawless, gleaming red-brown coin, untouched by time, can drive collectors into bidding frenzies. Imagine pulling one from an old roll, its luster as fresh as the day it was struck, and realizing you're holding a fortune in your hands. One collector shared his story. He was sorting through his late father's coin jar, just a dusty glass container filled with pennies from decades past. He almost poured them into a Coinstar machine. But something stopped him. He decided to look closer. And there it was. A 1944 no-mint mark penny, shining brighter than the rest. He sent it off to be graded. When it came back, certified as a rare specimen, his heart nearly stopped. That single penny changed the trajectory of his life. And that's the lesson here. These coins hide in plain sight. They rest quietly in boxes, in drawers, in forgotten collections. But the trained eye, the collector who knows what to look for, can unlock treasures others overlook. Here's what separates a penny worth a cent from one worth over $1 million. First, check the date, 1944. Then, look at the mint mark. If there's no letter below the date, you may be holding a Philadelphia strike. But the real key, the make-or-break detail, is the metal. If your 1944 penny is steel, attracted to a magnet, you may have discovered one of the rarest coins in U.S. history. Even if it's copper, condition matters. Examine the color. Brilliant red and lustrous copper coins, untouched and sharp, command staggering prices. Wear and scratches bring the value down, but a pristine 1944 no-mint mark wheat penny can still be worth thousands, or even tens of thousands, at auction. Collectors today are rushing to find these coins. Dealers are searching every hoard, every estate sale, every coin roll. Because once in a while, a miracle coin appears, and when it does, it can change someone's life forever. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but instead, it became one of the most shocking million-dollar discoveries in American coin history. Imagine holding a penny so ordinary, so common-looking that you'd never think twice about it. Yet hidden inside that little copper circle lies a story of mistakes, miracles, and money, the kind of story that has collectors losing sleep at night. The 1955 wheat penny isn't just another coin. For a rare few, it has transformed loose change into a fortune worth up to $1.2 million. And what secret detail separates it from the billions of other pennies struck in the same year? That's the mystery we're about to unravel. The year was 1955. America was in motion. Elvis Presley was just beginning to shake the world, cars were growing sleeker, and the U.S. Mint in Denver was operating at full speed. The Denver Mint struck millions upon millions of Lincoln wheat pennies that year, each carrying the tiny D mark below Lincoln's portrait. To the average person, every one of those coins looked the same. But in the controlled chaos of the minting presses, small mistakes slipped through. One mistake, in particular, would prove legendary. Collectors believe that a misaligned die and subtle variations in the striking process gave birth to an extremely rare breed of 1955 wheat pennies. Coins with hidden errors. Coins with tiny, almost invisible details that transform them into treasures. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Some of these pennies began showing up decades later in rolls, in dusty jars, in forgotten collections, and when they surfaced, their prices skyrocketed. One seemingly ordinary wheat penny, pulled from circulation, shocked an auction house when it fetched a staggering price. Dealers whispered, collectors gasped, and suddenly, the hunt for the 1955 was on. Because these coins don't just represent copper and cents. They represent survival against all odds. The wheat penny design was nearing its end, and few thought to save them in pristine condition. Millions were spent, scratched, or lost. But the few that survived, in near-perfect quality, now command sums that defy imagination. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. He had kept a jar of wheat pennies for decades, never suspecting that tucked inside was a rare 1955 in exceptional condition. When he finally brought it to a dealer, jaws dropped. Under magnification, the details were flawless, the strike nearly perfect. And when it hit the auction block, collectors fought tooth and nail to own it. The final price? Enough to change a life forever. But here's where it gets even more unbelievable. Most people have seen or heard of the famous 1955 double die penny, the one with the dramatic doubling on the date and inscriptions. That coin alone has made headlines for decades. But the Denver Mint mark variety is its own enigma, hidden in plain sight, far less publicized, but equally capable of producing six-figure, and in the rarest cases, million-dollar results. Collectors were shocked to realize just how high the stakes had become. Suddenly, every old penny from the 1950s was being scrutinized. Magnifying glasses, jewelers' loupes, even microscopes came out. Everyone was looking for the details that could make the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth over $1 million. Condition. Most 1955 wheat pennies are worth only a few cents, maybe $1 or $2 if they're worn. But in uncirculated, mint-state condition, the numbers change dramatically. A flawless gem, graded at the highest levels, can climb to astonishing values. That's why stories keep emerging of everyday Americans cashing in on coins they once overlooked. But here's the twist that keeps collectors hooked. It isn't just about shine. It's about subtlety. Some 1955 pennies carry striking anomalies, minor die cracks, misalignment marks, or unusual coloration from their copper alloy. Details so small most people miss them. And yet, these details are what can push a coin from hundreds into thousands, and from thousands into the realm of millions. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin. Auction houses eagerly await when one surfaces, knowing it will set off a bidding war. And the whispers among numismatists grow louder each year. The best examples may never be seen again, locked away in private collections, hidden treasures known only to a select few. A shoebox of old pennies in the attic. A coffee can of change in the garage. A jar on your grandmother's shelf. Inside could be a coin worth more than gold by weight, a coin that changes everything. That's why collectors scour every wheat penny they come across, never letting even the most worn coin slip by unchecked. You must know how to identify it. The 1955 D wheat penny shows the Denver Mint mark just below the date. Start there. Then, look at the coin's overall condition. Sharp detail on Lincoln's beard and hair. Crisp lettering. No major scratches or wear. These are the signs of a coin that could command serious money. If the coin still carries its original luster, glowing red or reddish-brown under the light, you may be looking at something extraordinary. But don't stop there. Always check for anomalies around the date and mint mark. A slightly misplaced D, a die crack in the wheat stalks on the reverse, or an unusually bold strike could indicate something special. These tiny details are what collectors pay fortunes to own, because hidden in the sea of ordinary pennies is one coin that defies logic, a simple 1-cent piece capable of selling for more than $1 million. A coin that proves that treasure isn't always buried deep underground. Sometimes, it jingles in your pocket, waiting to be noticed. This penny almost vanished into obscurity, but instead, it became a jaw-dropping fortune. The year was 1956. A simple, ordinary wheat Lincoln penny left the Philadelphia Mint, with no mint mark, nothing unusual at first glance. Just another coin in an endless sea of copper. But hidden in those tiny details was something that would one day shock collectors, stun dealers, and change someone's life forever. Imagine holding a coin worth over $1 million and not even realizing it. That's exactly what happened when an unassuming 1956 penny, plucked from an old jar of change, sent shockwaves through the numismatic world. Dealers whispered about it. Collectors couldn't believe it. And the entire coin community learned a powerful lesson. Sometimes, the rarest treasures are hiding in plain sight. But what exactly makes a 1956 no-mint mark wheat penny worth up to $1.3 million? The answer begins in the chaos of the U.S. Mint itself. 1956 was a year of transition. Machines were running non-stop, churning out hundreds of millions of pennies to meet America's booming economy. In that frenzy, small mistakes slipped through. Tiny imperfections in the dies. Double designs. Off-center strikes. Coins that should have been caught, but weren't. And these mistakes, my friend, are exactly what turn an ordinary cent into $1 million miracle. Collectors call them errors, but in reality, they're miracles of survival. Most are destroyed instantly. But the ones that escape? They become legends. One man's story proves it best. He was sorting through his father's old coin collection, a dusty box left untouched for decades. Among faded wheat pennies, tarnished nickels, and forgotten dimes, there it was. A 1956 wheat penny with no mint mark. Nothing special, at least not at first. But under the magnifying glass, the details leapt out. The date was doubled. The Liberty was faintly misaligned. And the coin's copper surface gleamed like it had barely seen circulation. He almost set it aside. Almost spit it at the store. But instead, he sent it to be graded. What happened next stunned the entire coin world. That penny, once worth a single cent, sold for a staggering fortune. Not just a few thousand, not just tens of thousands, but hundreds of thousands of dollars at auction. In pristine condition, with its rare error, it became a coin that could command over $1.3 million. And it all started with a coin most people would have ignored. Thousands of these pennies are still out there, sitting in coffee cans, resting in cigar boxes, forgotten in dresser drawers. Some may already be in the hands of people who don't even realize what they have. 1956 was one of those years when the mint's quality control was shaky. That means more opportunities for errors, more chances for misprints, more million-dollar discoveries waiting to happen. This is where things get really interesting. First, check the date. A true 1956 wheat penny has the portrait of Lincoln on the front and the words, "In God We Trust," stretching across the top. Look closely at the year. If you see doubling on the numbers, especially the 9 and 5, you may have a double die, a mistake so rare, collectors will pay fortunes for it. Next, inspect the word Liberty on the left side. On some 1956 pennies, the letter shows signs of doubling or faint blurring, caused by the die striking slightly off-center. This tiny error is invisible to most, but once seen, it cannot be unseen. And here's another secret. Flip the coin to the reverse. Look at the wheat stalks. Are the lines sharp, crisp, and full of detail? If so, your coin may be a higher grade, closer to uncirculated. The higher the grade, the higher the price. And in perfect condition, that's where the million-dollar magic begins. But wait, there's one more twist. Some 1956 pennies are struck on the wrong planchet entirely. That means instead of a copper blank, the coin was struck on a dime or nickel blank by mistake. These bizarre rarities are the holy grail of coin errors. At auction, they can skyrocket in value, turning a penny into a life-changing discovery. Collectors have described the feeling of finding one as electric. Dealers have seen bidding wars erupt over them. And ordinary people, people like you, have watched their pocket change transform into a fortune. And yet, most people never check. Most people spend these coins without a second thought. Think about that for a moment. Every time a penny slips through your fingers, you might be passing up a small piece of history and a chance at over $1 million. But the story doesn't end there. Because what makes the 1956 no-mint mark wheat penny so fascinating isn't just its errors, it's its survival. Millions were melted down. Millions were spent and worn smooth. But the few that remain in top condition? They're like time capsules, frozen reminders of America's mid-century years. When collectors hold one, they don't just see copper. They see history. Eisenhower was president. Rock and roll was sweeping the nation. The American dream was alive and booming. And through it all, pennies like these quietly passed from hand to hand, until fate decided one would outlast them all. And that's the hidden lesson. Sometimes, the most ordinary objects hide extraordinary value. Sometimes, the penny you almost overlooked is the very one that changes your life. So tonight, when you get home, I challenge you. Grab that old jar of change. Dig through those dusty drawers. Look at every 1956 penny with fresh eyes. Because the next discovery could be yours. Collectors are already searching. Dealers are already paying. And the clock is ticking. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in a coffee can full of junk change, but instead, it sold for over $1 million. The year was 1952. Dwight D. Eisenhower was president. Gas cost just 20 cents a gallon. And in the U.S. Mint's Denver facility, something unusual happened. Something so small, so almost invisible, that it went unnoticed for decades. A mistake. A flaw. A moment of imperfection that would turn an ordinary penny into a collector's dream worth up to $1.4 million today. Most people toss a penny aside without a second thought. But in this case, ignoring a single detail would cost you a fortune. Because the 1952 D Mint Mark Wheat penny is not just another copper coin. It's a hidden treasure that only a handful of sharp-eyed collectors have ever recognized. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. You see, in 1952, the Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of Lincoln wheat pennies. To most, they all looked the same, Lincoln's stoic profile on one side, 2 wheat stalks framing the words, 1 cent, on the back. But in the chaos of the minting floor, some coins slipped through with tiny, almost imperceptible errors. Misplaced mint marks, doubling in the lettering, strikes slightly off-center. These flaws, invisible to the average person, would one day transform an ordinary 1-cent piece into a $1 million miracle. Collectors were shocked when the first of these error coins surfaced. At first, dealers dismissed it as a curiosity worth maybe a few dollars. But then, one specimen showed up in pristine condition. Sharp details, red luster, a bold, doubled mint mark under Lincoln's date. Suddenly, whispers began. Could it be real? Could a penny struck in 1952, a coin everyone had ignored for decades, truly be worth more than gold? One man's pocket change became a fortune overnight. At auction, the bid started small, a few $100s, then a few thousand. But then the room grew tense. Bidders leaned forward. Numbers climbed higher, faster. 10,000, 50,000, 100,000. And then, in a moment no one expected, the hammer fell. The coin sold for nearly $1.5 million. What tiny detail transformed this coin from a throwaway penny into a prize worth more than most homes? The answer lies in the mint mark. Look carefully at the D under the date. On certain 1952 pennies, that D is doubled, repunched, or misaligned. Sometimes it's slightly tilted. Sometimes it's faint, almost ghostly. Other times, you can see 2 distinct D impressions, one stamped over the other. This isn't damage. It isn't wear. It's a minting mistake, a rare slip of history that makes the coin unlike almost any other. And here's where it gets even more dramatic. Most people who find this penny don't even realize what they have. They see a copper coin from the 50s, toss it in a jar, and never look back. But the collector who knows what to look for, they hold in their hands the key to a $1 million treasure. But that's not the only secret of the 1952 D penny. Another shocking twist is its condition. Most wheat pennies from the 1950s are heavily circulated, worn down by decades of use. But if you find one with that brilliant red-orange shine, full detail in Lincoln's hair, sharp wheat stalks on the reverse, your penny could be worth not just hundreds, not just thousands, but life-changing money. Some pristine examples have been certified at the highest grades by professional grading services, and those are the ones that spark bidding wars at auction. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins because they know the supply is vanishing fast. Every year, more wheat pennies disappear into collections, safes, or the melting pot. But every so often, one slips through, hiding in a roll of pennies tucked away in an attic or forgotten in an old family coin jar. You're holding a handful of change, quarters, nickels, dimes, and then, buried at the bottom, a single brown penny. You almost toss it aside. But then you glance at the date, 1952, and under it the faint D. Your heart races. Could this be the one? Could this be the penny that changes everything? But what happens next will surprise you even more, because even among 1952 D pennies, not all errors are created equal. Some are barely noticeable. A faint doubling, a weak strike, those might fetch a few $100s. But the rarest ones, the bold, unmistakable repunched mint marks in mint state condition, are the true $1 million prizes. Collectors trade secrets about which varieties to hunt. They share stories of finding rare pennies in the most unexpected places: a drawer, a cash register, even the street. And every story fuels the dream that hidden among billions of ordinary coins, a single treasure is still waiting to be discovered. One man once said he almost spent his 1952 D penny on a candy bar. Imagine that. $1 million coin, almost traded away for 5 cents worth of sugar. That is how easily history slips through our fingers. And that is why every coin must be checked, every detail inspected. Look closely at the date and mint mark. Use a magnifying glass if you can. On the rarest 1952 D pennies, the D is doubled or misplaced. Look for extra thickness in the numbers of the date. Look for crisp detail in Lincoln's coat and hair. And most of all, look for that blazing red color that screams, "Uncirculated." Don't be fooled by worn-out coins that show only faint traces. Those are worth something, but not millions. The million-dollar miracle lies in pristine condition, in unmistakable errors, in the kind of coin that stops even seasoned dealers in their tracks. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now. It could be in a jar on your dresser, a forgotten roll of change, or a penny you've walked past 100 times without noticing. But if it's the right one, if it's the rare 1952 D wheat penny with that tiny, fateful mistake, it could be worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in a child's piggy bank, but instead, it became one of the most valuable treasures ever to cross an auction block. A single penny, so ordinary, so unassuming, sold for nearly $1.5 million. And what makes it even more thrilling is that it wasn't a rare gold piece or a silver dollar locked away in a bank vault. No, it was a humble 1944 Lincoln wheat penny, with no mint mark at all. At first glance, it looks like any other coin that millions of Americans once spent on bubble gum or a morning newspaper. But hidden in its copper surface is a secret so powerful that collectors have chased it for generations. And here's the part that will send chills down your spine. This exact penny might be hiding in your house right now. During the dark days of World War II, America's mints faced shortages of copper. The war effort demanded every scrap of metal to build bullets, tanks, and ships. In 1943, pennies weren't even made of copper at all. They were struck in steel, coated in zinc, giving them a silver shine. But when 1944 arrived, something extraordinary happened. The mints returned to copper, yet a handful of strange, rare mistakes slipped through the presses, and collectors have been hunting for those mistakes ever since. Now here's where the story takes a turn that stunned the coin world. A single 1944 penny without a mint mark, struck at the Philadelphia Mint, was discovered decades later, and when it went to auction, the bidding war was fierce. Dealers fought. Collectors gasped. And the final hammer price? Nearly $1.5 million for a coin worth just 1 cent on its face. The answer lies in details so small, most people never notice them. Some 1944 pennies were accidentally struck on leftover steel planchets from the previous year, creating a legendary error. Others were perfectly copper, but in flawless condition, untouched by time, with that crisp red luster gleaming as if it had just left the minting press. And here's the shocking truth. The difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth over $1 million can come down to a single scratch, a faint minting flaw, or the absence of a tiny mint mark. Collectors whisper about these coins like they're folklore. One man reportedly found his in an old jar of change tucked away in the attic. Another stumbled on one at a flea market, paying just a few cents before realizing what he truly held. Stories like these are what make coin collecting feel less like a hobby and more like a treasure hunt. But this story isn't over yet. Because the 1944 penny is more than just rare, it's mysterious. Think about it. Billions of wheat pennies were produced in the 1940s, and yet only a handful of these extraordinary survivors exist. Dealers couldn't believe it when the first $1 million sale was recorded. News spread across the collecting world like wildfire. Suddenly, everyone began checking their jars of change, their drawers, their coffee cans filled with old pennies. Because if one lucky collector could walk away with nearly $1.5 million, why couldn't the next one be you? The absence of a mint mark. On Lincoln pennies, a tiny D or S. Below the date usually reveals where it was minted. Denver, San Francisco. But the ones from Philadelphia, struck with no mint mark at all, carry a strange, alluring purity. Combine that with the rare 1944 errors and flawless strikes, and you have the recipe for a penny worth a life-changing fortune. But what happened next stunned everyone. Another 1944 penny surfaced, this time discovered in a small town by a collector who almost spent it on groceries. He decided, at the very last second, to double-check the date. That decision changed his life forever. At auction, his penny sparked another bidding war, and once again, the price soared into the hundreds of thousands. Collectors realized this wasn't a one-off miracle, it was a hidden treasure waiting to be found. Just imagine the feeling, pulling out an old box of coins, brushing away the dust, and spotting that magical date, 1944. At first, you think nothing of it. Then you notice no mint mark. Your heart races. Could it be? Could you be holding the same coin that others have sold for $1 million or more? And here's where things get even more suspenseful. Not every 1944 penny is valuable. Millions exist that are worth only a few cents. The secret lies in the details. You have to look for the composition, steel versus copper. You have to study the condition, brilliant red luster, no scratches, no wear. And of course, you have to check for the mint mark, or the absence of one. Collectors have spent decades trying to track down each and every one of these mysterious coins. Some say only a few dozen survive. Others believe more are out there, tucked away in forgotten jars, locked in bank boxes, or even resting in your pocket change at this very moment. The uncertainty only fuels the hunt. While million-dollar sales grab the headlines, even less than perfect examples of this coin can bring in thousands, sometimes tens of thousands. That's life-changing money, hidden in a penny most people would overlook. But what makes the 1944 penny so legendary isn't just its rarity. It's the story it tells. A story of wartime sacrifice. A story of minting mistakes and human error. A story of luck, chance, and destiny colliding in the palm of your hand. Every time one of these coins is discovered, it reminds us that treasures still exist in the most ordinary places. Check the date, 1944. Step 2. Look closely below the year. If there's no letter, no D, no S, you've found a Philadelphia strike. Step 3. Test the metal. If it sticks to a magnet, it's steel, and that's where the real rarity begins. Even if it's copper, flawless red luster can push the value sky high. Finally, condition is everything. A penny in pristine, uncirculated condition can be worth hundreds of thousands, or more. So the next time you come across a jar of wheat pennies, don't dismiss them as junk. Don't pass them off as worthless. Because tucked away in the mix, there could be one coin that changes everything. The 1944 no mint marked Lincoln wheat penny is more than just money. It's hope. It's history. It's the proof that life-changing fortune can hide in the smallest corners of our world. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million.